is the way you do it. But again, this is the continuation of the Inter-VLAN routing, what we already did in our previous section. So what I'll do is I'll make some changes a little bit so that we can make our topology a little bit better. So this time I'm going to do the Inter-VLAN routing options, and these Inter-VLAN routing options will be done based on the sub interfaces. So I don't need two interfaces, so I can delete one of the interface here. So which means I'm using E0 by 0 connecting to E1 by 0, right? That's the thing. So which means here, this is going to be my E0 by 0 interface. And then on the other side, it will be E1 by 0. So this interface is E1 by 0. So which means this E1 by 0 interface has to be a trunk port instead of 20. So there are a few adjustments we have to do. So no need to make any changes on these two ports, the VLAN ports, the N20, those are the same thing. I don't need to disturb them. The only difference is we need to do the configuration. So what I'll do is first a three-step configuration. Always remember, we need to assign the ports in the VLAN 10 and 20, which is something already done. I don't need to disturb that. And the second thing is I need to configure the E1 by 0 as a trunk port. That's the second step. And on the router, I need to create sub-interfaces. Okay, so as we are continuing the lab, so there will be a few previous lab configurations. So we need to keep those in mind, and we have to override the things here. So we'll go to the switch side first. On the switch 1, I'll say interface, show an interface E1 by 0. And if you see this E1 by 0 is already in the VLAN 10 because it was connecting to that port. So I'll just change this E1 by 0. I think we can use the command default interface. Default interface command will simply shift the interface to the default configurations, or you can remove it. Removing is something a little bit difficult, especially when you have plenty of configurations. If you want to use the interface as a fresh interface, default interface is something a preferable way to do it. Okay, so this is more kind of production scenarios where you're trying to do some modifications in your topology and you're trying to make it work. Now let's go to the interface E1 by 0, and then we say switch port trunk encapsulation .1q, and then switch port mode trunk. We know these commands already. The trunk port we have to configure, and likewise, that's it. The second part is done. We'll move to the third part. On the third part, we need to configure the router to do the job of that is Inter-VLAN routing, right? Sub interfaces. So if you see already there is an E0 by 1, which is already pre-configured. So I'll remove the IP on that because it will show you IP conflict, right? So I'm going to remove that. And likewise, E0 by 0 also I'm going to remove that because we will be assigning the IP address on the sub interfaces. So we don't need any IP on the physical interfaces, especially here. So I'm going to remove the IP addresses if you're already done with an IP. If you are using a fresh router or the fresh topologies, then you don't need to do this. So just make sure that the interface is up and running. So interface E0 by 0, no shutdown, no IP address. And now I need to create the sub interfaces. So in these sub interfaces, I'm going to create E0 by 0.10 and .20. And .10 will be 1.100 and .20 will be 2.100 for the VLAN 10 and 20. So we'll use the same number, but not compulsory. Give the exact VLAN number here, encapsulation .1q, and then the IP address is going to be the gateway address, whatever you have decided as per your topology. Now, likewise, I'm going to create another subinterface, interface 0 by 0.20, and then the encapsulation is also 20, and then the IP address is going to be a different subnet. So 2.100, done. So make sure that you save the configurations and the verifications. We can use a command called show IP interface brief. You can verify. So from here, if everything is okay, I should be able to ping to my local host. You can see. And also I should be able to ping to 2.1, another host. You can try different computers, whatever you have. So 2.4, you can see I'm able to reach from the gateways, which basically confirms that our encapsulation, those commands are correct. So which means automatically, if I go to the PC1, I should be able to communicate with every other device. So let's try to ping to different subnets 2.1 from 1.1. Even I'll try to ping to 2.4, which is on a different switch. And even I'll try to trace to verify 192.168.2.4. You can see it goes to the gateway. So the end result will not change whether you are using a separate gateways or the sub-interfaces. But the difference is you can create any number of sub-interfaces and you don't need to have a separate gateway for each and every VLAN. So with the help of a single interface, we can do inter-VLAN routing. So this is kind of a simple lab. Again, you can see in this scenario, we used this interface with the sub-interfaces and then a summary, and this interface is trunk, and this interface is also trunk. So which will allow you to communicate from 1.1 to this VLAN through inter-VLAN routing, and then also you're able to communicate with this because of the trunk link configured on the other side.